As the world continues to evolve in these uncertain times, remote work is becoming increasingly important. And along with that comes the need for remote work tools. In this video, I'm going to be showing you the very system that we built using Airtable to help a team on their pandemic response. So if that's of interest to you, stick around and let's get into it. Hey, my name is Gareth Pronovost. I'm the owner at Gap Consulting, where we help you to organize and automate your business and life. If that's of interest and you want to see more about how we do that, swing by our website and check out the links below this video in the description. We offer a lot of different solutions, one of them being an Airtable crash course if you want to get up to speed quickly and easily. But without further ado, let's talk about the system that we built here and just jump into my screen. So as we're taking a look over the fairly simple 5-table database solution that we built, just let me set the stage here and describe the scenario. There is a local area agency on aging, and this organization helps the elderly community in the local area. Now, they are needing to track purchases as they go out and help the elderly community shelter in place. And so essentially this works, the total solution is supposed to work like this. Purchase orders are created. So we have a table for purchase orders and they are assigned to buyers. Every buyer can have multiple purchase orders over time, but in theory, they're only working on one PO at a time. Now that PO has a total amount of funds that they can spend against, but we need to track that and make sure that they don't go over. Now, additionally, we want to track the buyers, and so that's our next table. Now the buyers are the people internal to the organization who are boots on the ground helping the elderly community to shelter in place. So the buyers are the folks out there who are doing all of the work, and they need access to parts of this data, but not all of it. The third table here are the clients. This is the elderly community that is being served by this organization. And of course, because of the need to remain HIPAA compliant and other things like that, we have to be very specific about what kind of data we store here. In this case, we're using a specific ID that does not include any personal information. But we do need to be able to track how much money is spent and how many purchases are connecting back to those clients. So now let's talk about that purchases table. Effectively, those buyers are out there in the world picking up these supplies that the elderly community requires to allow them to shelter in place. And so when this occurs, every time there is a new purchase made, the buyer needs to record the purchase order that they purchased against, and they also need to record the client that they are serving with that purchase. Now for audit purposes, because a lot of times these are grant-funded type of programs, it's very important to have a steady audit trail on this. And so we've allowed them to, in this case, capture a photo of the receipt and enter the data as it pertains to that particular purchase that they make. So that in this way, we are able to keep everything in sync. The buyers don't overspend their budget. The clients aren't overspent on a case-by-case basis. And we have an audit trail on all those purchases. Now, lastly, we built this 5th table, and this 5th table includes training. And this is where we can include some training materials for our buyers and admin folks who are creating this solution. Now, let me go through these tables one at a time and kind of describe how they're interacting by creating, let's say an example. So the first thing I'll do is I'll add myself as a buyer here. Whoop, I only want to put first name here and then last name here. And I'm going to add a few different buyers just so that we can have a couple of data points in here. Now, and I'll talk more about this towards the end, but there are automations that we can build for this database as well. Sometimes you might choose to include text message reminders or things of that nature. So it might be to your benefit to start storing data around the buyers. If the buyers want to receive cell phone reminders, text reminders, things of that nature, this is the place that you can store that data to make sure that they're getting what they need. But now that we have a few buyers in the system, let's go ahead and create a few purchase orders against those buyers. So I'm going to link to each buyer independently. And we'll create some POs. Let's just say that they have PO 111, PO 112, and PO 113. Now, these POs are going to be open or closed. And it's conceivable that over time, additional POs might be created in the name of the different buyers. So if these POs, let's suppose, were spent against, let's say that each of these POs had a $5,000 spending limit. If it got to the point where either the PO was used up or this PO was no longer active, we can now close those POs. And if we wanted to create new POs, we could do that. So simply, this would now be PO 114, 115, and PO 116. Of course, you could make this an automated number generation. In this case, we are imagining that the POs are created in another system. So we want to be able to change that PO here. But if you had some sort of sequential formula that you wanted to employ here, you could do that as well. So let's imagine then that these POs are in fact open, and perhaps these are $2,500 POs. So now we have some buyers and we have some purchase orders. Now let's go ahead and add some clients here. Now again, because of the need to remain HIPAA compliant and other things, we're going to just keep some very simple number IDs for 2 different people, let's say, in our database. And so we really don't have a lot of data here at the client level, again, because we're trying to keep people's privacy. Now we jump into the purchases area. Now the real benefit here is that we are able to create Airtable forms that the buyers can use in the field from their cell phones, submit the purchases that they make, and have them instantly recorded and updated in a central place. Now, the best part about this is we can build forms that are unique to each of our buyers, because we don't want a buyer to accidentally create a form or record against a PO that's not theirs. So let's talk about how we do that. First, I'm going to drop back into the POs here, and you'll see that I already have a specific view called Gareth's Open POs. Now, I don't want to be able to have Gareth accidentally record a transaction against a closed PO. And I also don't want him to accidentally record a transaction on someone else's PO. So the way that I get around this is I establish a view that is looking for the buyer that contains this name that is open. And I can do that same thing. I can replicate this. I'm going to now duplicate this view for Mickey. And here I will go in and apply a filter where the name is Mickey. And similarly, I can duplicate this view and do it again for Minnie. And same thing here, I just need to make sure that this applies to Minnie. Now, the reason that we do this is because we can now go into the purchases table, and we're going to first establish some forms. So let me go ahead and start with Gareth's form. And on Gareth's form, you'll see that I've built a purchase order here that is I've turned on the limit record selection to a view, which means when Gareth accesses this form, which is specific to him, he's only going to be able to access the records that are available on the Gareth's Open PO view that we just created. So this way, Gareth can only access his POs that are open. So I'm going to go ahead and take this form and share that URL. And it's a great decision, I think, to often keep this, bring it into the buyer's table, and then just paste that here. That way we have a record of that specific form URL. And now we can go ahead and replicate that form. So I'm going to just duplicate it here, and I'm going to build it for Mickey. As I do that, of course, we are going to notice that this changes here. And I need to change the purchase order to limit to a different area. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that to Mickey's Open POs. I'm going to share this form and grab that and bring it back to the buyer level. Lastly, I'm going to go back to the purchases form, and I'm going to duplicate it one more time and this time, of course, for minis form. I'm going to turn that purchase order now over to only look at minis open POs, share that form, and bring that in, to mini. So now we have a nice record of all of these URLs, and we can share these URLs with each of the team members independently. Now from here, the team member would just need to click on this, and they can now upload the information that they need for that specific PO. The data is going to be captured automatically inside of the Airtable database and in real time. So now, when Gareth goes to Gareth's form here, as you see Gareth's form, the only purchase order that I should be able to see is going to be the one that's assigned to Gareth that is open. So the one I see here is 114. Let's go back into the database and verify that that's accurate. If we go back to the purchase orders here, and if I go to the All Records view, we're going to see that Gareth has two forms, 111 and 114. 114 is the only one that's open. So that's working correctly. We would also expect, if we look at Mickey's form, that he's only going to have access to 115. Let's test that. Going back into buyers, I'm going to open Mickey's form. And here it's going to say Mickey's form at the top. And when I pull down the purchase order here, 115 is the only one we see. So this is the way that we are able to limit the data that folks have access to in the field. And the better part about all of this is the buyers don't need access to the database per se. Really all they need is access to these forms. They can take pictures, upload all that data from their cell phones, and it all goes back to that central location. Now, I did mention, of course, that one thing that you might want to do here is add some automation. So an idea for automation would be to establish rules that send out text messages on given certain conditions. So maybe you do a daily text message reminder at a certain time that says, for each buyer, this is the remaining amount on your open PO. Or similarly, perhaps instead you're doing some sort of specific reminder when they go to a certain threshold. So you set up some rules that say when your PO has only $100 remaining, you're going to receive notification, for example. Whatever the case may be, these kinds of systems are going to help you stay organized, make sure that everything is well aligned, and hopefully help all of us overcome COVID-19 together. As always, I hope you found that to be super helpful. If you did and you'd like to learn more, we have a lot of resources that we've put together on our site, so swing on by and see how we can help. We have a blog that includes free content every week. We also built an Airtable free crash course that'll get you up to speed in under 2 weeks. And if you're looking for something more advanced, you can book some time to have a discussion with me. I will hop on a Zoom call with you and we can talk about what your needs are and how our company might be able to help. So if that's of interest, swing on by. Look forward to connecting with you soon.